So welcome back. Yes, as I said last time, I'm going to be looking at the tender controls now. So the water valve, refitting the brake, all those little bits and pieces. So I don't believe I actually got around to showing you a shot of the inside of the cab. So here it is. Obviously it's not fitted, it's still got to go on the engine, but when it's finished and varnished, that will go on and then we'll see it finally completed. But that's what it looks like, painted up and with the wood in place and varnished and looking lovely. So onto the water valves. Now when I came to this, both water valves were seized. I have pulled them apart, got them moving, and I think they've just had a bit of scale in them, but I've given them a clean up. Now they're nice valves, but this one, for the application on this tender, it's a long way from the support at the top to the valve, and it had this extension piece fitted. Still does have the extension piece fitted. We'll take a look at that, but as well as that, here's the other side, which I've taken apart so you can see how it works. You've got a body with a hole either side, a plunger that fits in said hole, and you see that little spigot sticking out just above? Well, that locates in a little cutout in here, so it can only turn 90 degrees. Now, I don't want it to turn only 90 degrees because when it's in place, if it only turns 90 degrees and they're both the same, then when they're both in, let's get them both in place. This one is straightening anyway, but from a driver's point of view, I want them, when they turn off, to either both be pointing out or both be pointing in. Either way is fine, but I want them to both point in the same orientation. Because the two valves are the same, at the moment, to turn them off, you turn them both 90 degrees, and I think personally that looks untidy. So I'm going to modify these so that that angle of movement goes up to 180 degrees. So you'll never be able to turn it that way, but you will be able to turn it all the way this way. Now there is another reason for doing this, because these are only actually glued together. But I am going to drill through, put a pin through, and make sure that can't move. So if I put a pin through down here, low down, it won't be able to come out because it will have this behind it for a start. Or even if it can, I'll make it a tight fit anyway. But for up here where the spindle goes in there, again I'll put a small hole through and a pin, whether it be a split pin or whatever, so that won't be able to turn either. So one thing at a time, let's start getting these installed, because just looking at this now, that might actually not stick up through this fitting in the foot plate. But we'll see, one thing at a time. I'm going to machine away some more of that cutout so that we get 180 degrees movement and not just 90. Now I could either set it up in the mill and do a really nice job of turning it off, or for what we're actually doing, I could just take the hacksaw and cut right across and file it away, which is probably the easier option. And here it is now I've done it. You can just about see the pin through there. So I drilled it a very tight size for some wire that I had, and then hammered the wire through, so that's never going to come out. And then further up I've drilled it a good same size for a really good fitting. See, it's a good fitting split pin, because of the handle that needs to come off to be able to remove the floor. So it wants to be something that can be done quite easily in situ. So yeah, that's what we've gone for. So I'm a little bit sorry, I've got a confession to make. I've got a bit engrossed in doing it and forgetting to take video, but it's all back together. Let's have a look at the front of the tender. There we go. It's not easy to see the black on black, but the doors have been refitted with pins in the hinges, reversers fitted, foot plates fitted, and water valves are fitted. We've got a 180 degree off, on, off, off, on, off. And now, if you wanted to remove them, there is, up under the floorboard, if you want to focus, a split pin going through the shaft, both sides. So if they ever need to come apart, that's where it splits apart quite easily. So there we are for now. So what's left? Lining, numbers. These handrails go in those holes, stick up and locate on them as well. So they can't go on yet. The whistle pipe can't go on yet. Whistle's already under the running plate, because where it goes up through the hole, it goes past, see that little frame there? Oh, little bracket on the inside of here. Oh, there you go. It needs to go through the middle of that. So that can't go on yet. Needs the cab to be on first. And the reach rod, that can't go on because it goes on the cab and I don't want it in the way while I'm doing that. The handrails need to be pushed back slightly, but they can't because they locate in the cab and the cab wants to be on first. And that is about it. I may still make a dummy whistle to go on top of the cab roof. I've made the slightly longer screw that holds the cab floor down. Now that there's wood there as well. I can't find a knurling tool at home, so I want to knurl it, whether I buy a tool or borrow one for the job for now. A couple of bits of paint to touch up, and if we look in the box of bits that are left, all we've got is the extension for the reverser, which I will put on, but I want to take photos of it as it is first before we spoil the look with the big reverser. We've got the ridiculously large coupling bar and pin. I reckon that's big enough for 7 1/4 narrow gauge, but never mind, that's what's on there. Grate and ash pan. In this tin, I forget what's in here. Allen key and a few grub screws, which, as I remember, are the grub screws that came out of the eccentrics. And obviously there's the broken up crank axle. So there she is. I cannot wait to get her together properly, but I don't want to spoil the look until she's done. So there we have it. That is enough for today. Partially because I've had enough, partly because I've covered her up now, stopped the dust getting on. She's waiting for transfers. As far as I can make out, the only thing left to do is make some new rubber pipes and cut some new rubber pipes to length to go between the engine and tender. And I may look at making some pipes to go on the overflows so that you can see them from outboard. If I do that, it may end up being a little bracket that holds them onto the bottom of the bottom step of the footplate steps. So that may be a little something else just to make driving a little bit easier. There were some rubber pipes on it, or plasticky rubber pipes that were on it, which did divert the flow out, but I'm not quite sure what was actually holding them in the direction they were going. So that's something to think about and something I may do next time. But for now, that's enough. I am pretty much signing off on that until I've got transfers. So we'll get on with that when we can. So for now, thanks for watching, and I will catch up with you soon. Wonder what's going to be next.